Hello everyone, my name is Michele Tuveri. I work for Constalation Brands and I look after Europe, Middle East and Africa. Today we're here to talk about our fantastic high West American whiskey range. Here we have our double rye. It's actually the whiskey that we're probably the most proud of because we specialize in rye making. Not a lot of producers want to work with such high amounts of rye because it's a bit of a pain to work with. It's expensive, it gets really sticky, and we distill grain in, so we get a lot of flavor from the rye, but it's also super difficult to distill. This is called double rye for a few reasons. One is that it's made with two different ryes that we blend together to get the perfect balance. One is quite young and spicy, and the other one is older, so that it gives us the caramel, toffee, vanilla notes that we want into our whiskey. It's also called double rye because it contains almost twice the amount of most other ryes. As you know, the legislation says that you need to use 51% rye, and that's what most people do. And we use almost twice as much. We're closer to 100% rather than 51%. So what you get here is a lot of spice, a lot of herbal notes like mint, green apple, a lot of eucalyptus notes, but at the same time you get the sweetness and the toffee and caramel from the barrel and from the older rye. Cheers. I'd like to talk to you about Campfire. This is probably one of the most interesting whiskies from our portfolio, and it's very unique. This was the first blend of bourbon, rye, and Irish Scotch whiskey. Don't tell the Scotch lovers. What we get here is we get the Moorishness and the sweetness and the full body from the corn. We get things a little bit interesting with the spiciness from the rye, and then we get a small amount of Irish Scotch whiskey, and no, I cannot tell you which one it is, just to get a little bit of smoke in. What I like about this is that you can use it to introduce people to smoky whiskies. A lot of times Scotch whiskies are quite dry and floral, and some people have a hard time appreciating the smoke in those. But because of the high sweetness in Campfire, you can get people introduced to smoke in a much more approachable way. Cheers. This is our bourbon. We do make a bourbon, but because we like rye so much, we do a high rye bourbon. In fact, our rye probably contains almost as much rye as some ryes. This is around 60% corn and around 40% rye, depending on the batch, which is a very high amount of rye. So what we get here is the sweetness and the Moorishness of the bourbon, but also we get the spice and the long finish from the rye. In the States, this is aged between 2 and 13 years. In Europe, the legislation is slightly different, so the bottles you find in Europe are aged between 3 and 12 years. Obviously, we want this wide range of aging because we want the fresh notes from the younger ones, the younger whiskies, and we want the deep, long finished notes from the older ones, and we think we find a very good balance with this whiskey. Rendezvous is probably my favorite out of the whole range. We got 99 points at the International Wine and Spirits Challenge a few years ago. 99 points is the maximum you can get, so best rye in the show. It's a blend of two ryes. Both of them are around 100% rye, and it's aged between 4 and 8 years old. Now this is similar to the double rye, which is our younger version of this whiskey, but the balance is more skewed towards the 8-year-old side. So instead of having a very fresh, grassy whiskey at the beginning of the palate, we still have the spiciness, but it's more like cinnamon, cloves, and then it goes into coffee, chocolate, and leather territory. It's a long finished whiskey. It's what I call a meditation whiskey. So it's supposed to be enjoyed slowly. Enjoy.